Coming up on the Dave DeBall Big Show, Lonzo Ball has shocked the world. He's heading to the National Basketball Association. Plus, I've got bad coaching in the NCAA basketball tournament. You won't want to miss that. All right, go ahead and play the cool intro music now.
Dave DeBall Big Show, presented by Seat77.com. As always, Dave DeBall is coming to you live from the Super Plus Seat 77 broadcast studio in the heart of Silicon Valley. Now, Dave DeBall.
North America, thanks for tuning in to the Dave DeBall Big Show. Today, we begin with Lonzo Ball of the UCLA Bruins. Now, here's the situation. The UCLA Bruins, as we all know, ended up getting beat last night by Kentucky. It was like 86-75 was the final. And I'm going to get into bad coaching in a minute because that is one of the primary reasons the UCLA Bruins are currently at home as opposed to getting ready for another game in the tournament. But Steve Alford of the UCLA Bruins isn't alone when it comes to bad coaching. I will touch on the horrific coaching job or lack of job by Sean Miller in the last 2 minutes of that Arizona game the other night a little bit later in the show. But back to Lonzo Ball. And we all know LeVar Ball has been all over the place, yelling and screaming and outside promoting his kids in a way we haven't seen a parent promote his child maybe since the Williams dad and Tiger Woods' father. And the success that both of those two groups of players have had throughout their careers is quite impressive. So the question is, do we believe LeVar Ball, with his Triple B brand, is really going to allow his three sons to actually grow and become great National Basketball Association players? And Lonzo, who I think, at least at this point, is the best of the three Ball brothers, and of course he's the oldest and the only one that's currently, was in college. Lonzo went like 4 for 10 yesterday, and he had some just absolutely, horrific three-point attempts. I mean, worse than some of the CYO basketball three-point attempts I saw this past season when I was coaching. And the other thing that should be pointed out is that Steve Alford stayed with a 3-2 zone. He's probably got his players in a 3-2 zone right now, and they're on a plane ride home. It doesn't work against Kentucky. And there's a reason it doesn't work against Kentucky, because you get no rebounds. And Kentucky got every loose ball yesterday. And it's one thing to mix it up when you're coaching. So you start out a man, maybe you go to a 2-3, maybe you're playing something a little bit more creative like a 1-3-1. Who knows? But you mix it up. You don't stick with what's not working through the entire game. It's like, where were the other assistants on that coaching staff to let Steve Alford know that they needed to make an adjustment? Look, as a coach of a basketball team, it is easy sometimes to get lost and stuck and make mistakes as a coach. It happens. It happens to all coaches. I mean, it's not like Coach K is in the championship game every year. He's not. So this was a perfect opportunity, though, for UCLA to go further than they went against a pretty good Kentucky team. As for Lonzo Ball, just clank. Some shots he didn't even clank. They didn't even have the opportunity to clank. And this kid, we're supposed to believe, is a top 5 National Basketball Association pick. And the answer is yes, he is. He is a top 5 National Basketball Association pick. Look, the NBA lottery and the first and second round of the NBA drafts are really, it's just really difficult to tell who's going to be a superstar in the National Basketball Association based on what they did in high school and based on what they did in college. The pro game is different than the high school game, and it's definitely different than college basketball. And there are very, 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 very sure things in the National Basketball Association when it comes to the draft. So I could definitely see a player of Lonzo Ball's caliber, somebody that is like sees the floor so extremely well. I mean, like, I really honestly haven't seen anybody see the floor as well as Lonzo sees it at such a young age in a long, long time. He really at times reminds me of what Magic Johnson would do as a basketball player. Now, look, I'm not saying he's Magic Johnson. He's got a long way to go before he's there. I mean, like, a really long way. Look, I heard somebody actually say Penny Hardaway as a good comparison for Lonzo Ball. And I think if you're Lonzo Ball, do you want to be compared with Penny Hardaway? Or Jason Kidd? I mean, you want to be your own player, and he's got some really interesting, unique skills. But the jump shots, the lack of bending his knees at the free throw line, the nonchalant kind of looks like he doesn't care while on the court is not going to fly in the National Basketball Association over a long period of time. So, to LeVar Ball, I think you still have a lot of work to do with your son. I think he is indeed one of the top 5 National Basketball Association players. More power to you, LeVar Ball, for doing what you're doing as a dad. I certainly respect that. You got your kids in gyms. You had your kids working out. You were tough on them. You got them to this point, but you're not there yet. You have a long way to go with Lonzo, and I would hope that you would spend some time with him. As for Steve Alford, the coaching was just horrific. And, you know, the rumor during the game was that he was going to somehow land that Indiana coaching job, which didn't happen. It went to somebody else earlier in the day. So Alford appears to be staying at UCLA without Lonzo Ball. So we'll see how the Bruins do next year. As we move on to other bad coaching in the NCAA basketball tournament, and trust me, there's been a lot of it. But I wanted to touch on this real quick, which is Sean Miller. You know, the young coach of the Arizona Wildcats. Now, he's in the last couple minutes of the game against Xavier. And Sean Miller's team was up. And they completely fell apart. And Sean Miller did nothing to make adjustments really in the last 4 minutes of that game. Sean Miller is directly responsible. I know he didn't take any of the shots himself, but he is, in this case, directly responsible for the Arizona Wildcats being out of the NCAA tournament right now. Now, Steve Kerr was in the stands, and I have to say this about Steve Kerr. His first a couple games with the Golden State Warriors as a head coach, you know, and really maybe even his first half season. I know Steve knows the game as well as anybody else, but you could tell he was definitely struggling with some of the X's and O's, which is why they had an excellent assistant coach, a veteran assistant coach with him that was good at both defense and offense. So the Golden State Warriors and Bob Myers did an excellent job surrounding Steve Kerr with a good group of coaches. Steve, at this point, can handle anything that's thrown at him. One of the best basketball coaches in the country right now. So for him to sit in the stands and watch Sean Miller miss one bad call, make one bad call, one bad timeout, one bad setup of a play after another during the last couple minutes of that game must have been difficult to watch. And I know it was difficult for me to watch as well, and I'm not even a Wildcat fan. So there have been 2 major stories in the world over the last, well, there's been more than that because it's the Trump administration, and there's literally a new major story in the Trump administration every other hour. But there was the healthcare bill, which didn't even have a chance to get a vote because it got pulled before they even had a chance to vote on it. And then there was the piling on Sean Miller, that all of these people in the media started running around screaming that Sean Miller is a bad coach and needs to be fired. Look, Sean Miller is a fantastic basketball coach that got caught up in a big moment. And if it happens year after year where he gets caught up in big moments, which it really has, isn't it at least a positive that Sean Miller does such a fantastic job with these kids? They are kids. Does a fantastic job with these kids to get them into a place where he can fold in big moments as a coach? Absolutely unbelievable. Listen, Sean Miller, his record in the last 8 years at Arizona, he went 32-5, 25-9, 34-4, 33-5. You get the point. He does an excellent job recruiting. He does an excellent job coaching. He gets his team to the big games and then does a poor job down towards the end of the games. But that's on Sean Miller. So should he be canned, or should Sean Miller be allowed to continue to coach the Arizona Wildcats? And it's a ridiculous story that anybody would actually sit there and call for his head. Absolutely ridiculous. Look, Lute Olson, the famous Arizona Wildcat head coach. It took him like 14 years, right, before he won his first, and I think maybe only NCAA basketball championship with the Wildcats. I mean, let's double check that, but I believe, yes, it was 14 years. Lute Olson. We all know Lute. He was fantastic. 14 years. I mean, did 5 years into his tenure, were we calling for Lute Olson's head to be just slopped off and canned? And the answer is no. So this whole media outrage over Sean Miller and what happened at the end of that game, while justified, at least he's good enough to get you there. Okay. North America, thanks so much for all of your support. Listen, the Dave DeBall Big Show, we are available all over the place. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, The Sound of Cloud, Spreaker, big iTunes channel, which is audio and now video. That's right. You can catch us on iTunes video. And we're also on the big iHeart radio network in their radio app. So you can check us out there. Anyways, for the Dave DeBall Big Show, I am Dave DeBall, reminding you that not everyone can be a champion Ron Rivera. But everyone, and I do mean everyone, can act like one can. And good luck, North America. Because in this era of Donald Trump controlling both of controlling the House, the Senate, and the presidency, trust me, you are going to need the luck that you can get.